to today's edition of Search the Scriptures. We are in a new book. We are in 2 Samuel, and we are starting on the very first study, which covers the very first chapter in 2 Samuel, 2 Samuel chapter number 1. And we are going to attempt to answer two different sets of questions as we look at 2 Samuel chapter 1 today. The first one is this: the Amalekite thought he was bringing David good news, but he had mistaken his man. Why did David have him killed? It's an Amalekite that comes to tell David that Saul is dead. Ironically, Saul was supposed to have killed all the Amalekites back in 1 Samuel chapter 15. Question 2, what light does this episode and the lament for Saul and Jonathan throw on David's character? Bearing in mind the faults of the king to whom David was so loyal, are there any lessons here for me? Let's look at 2 Samuel chapter number 1 together, beginning with the very first verse. After the death of Saul, David returned from striking down the Amalekites, and he stayed in Ziklag for 2 days. On the third day, a man arrived from Saul's camp with his clothes torn and dust on his head. When he came to David, he fell to the ground to pay him honor. "Where have you come from?" David asked him. He answered, "I've escaped from the Israelite camp." "What happened?" David asked. "Tell me." "The men fled from the battle," he replied. "Many of them fell and died, and Saul and his son Jonathan are dead." Then David said to the young man who brought him the report, "How do you know that Saul and his son Jonathan are dead?" "I happened to be on Mount Gilboa," the young man said, "and there was Saul leaning on his spear with the chariots and their drivers in hot pursuit. When he turned around and saw me, he called out to me, and I said, 'What can I do?' He asked me, 'Who are you?' 'An Amalekite,' I answered. And then he said to me, 'Stand here by me and kill me. I'm in the throes of death, but I'm still alive.' So I stood beside him and killed him, because I knew that after he had fallen he could not survive. And I took the crown that was on his head and the band on his arm, and have brought them here to my lord." Then David and all the men with him took hold of their clothes and tore them, and they mourned and wept and fasted till evening for Saul and his son Jonathan, and for the army of the Lord, and for the nation of Israel, because they had fallen by the sword. David said to the young man who brought him the report, "Where are you from?" "I'm the son of a foreigner, an Amalekite," he answered. David asked him, "Why weren't you afraid to lift your hand to destroy the Lord's anointed?" Then David called one of his men and said, "Go strike him down." So he struck him down, and he died. For David had said to him, "Your blood be on your own head. Your own mouth testified against you, and when you said, 'I killed the Lord's anointed.'" And David took up this lament concerning Saul and his son Jonathan, and he ordered that the people of Judah be taught this lament of the bow. It is written in the book of Jashar. "A gazelle lies slain on your heights, Israel. How the mighty have fallen. Tell it not in Gath, proclaim it not in the streets of Ashkelon. Lest the daughters of the Philistines be glad, lest the daughters of the uncircumcised rejoice. Mountains of Gilboa, may you have neither dew nor rain, may no showers fall on your terraced fields, for there the shield of the mighty was despised, the shield of Saul no longer rubbed with oil. From the blood of the slain, from the flesh of the mighty, the bow of Jonathan did not turn back, the sword of Saul did not return unsatisfied. Saul and Jonathan in life they were loved and admired, and in death they were not parted. They were swifter than eagles, they were stronger than lions. Daughters of Israel, weep for Saul, who clothed you in scarlet and finery, who adorned your garments with ornaments of gold. How the mighty have fallen in battle. Jonathan lies slain on your heights. I grieve for you, Jonathan, my brother. You were very dear to me. Your love for me was more wonderful than that of a woman. How the mighty have fallen. The weapons of war have perished." Let's turn our attention to the questions. The first question, the Amalekite thought he was bringing David good news, but he'd mistaken his man. Why did David have him killed? Well, David had the Amalekite killed because he'd killed the Lord's anointed. Only God had the power to remove the crown of Saul. Question number 2, what light does this episode and the lament for Saul and Jonathan throw on David's character? Bearing in mind the faults of the king to whom David was so loyal, are there any lessons here for me? Well, David wasn't a self-promoter. he was content upon leaving his advancement in the hands of God alone. Whenever somebody has obtained their power illegitimately or is misusing their power, overstepping their authority, we have to be very careful in our reaction and the action that we take in regards to that. We have to especially be careful if we are in line for succession or advancement after the demise of that individual. It's one thing to draw attention to the abuse of power if you're not going to benefit from the demise of the person that's going to be disciplined or removed. It's quite another when you're going to benefit from that. David realized there's no authority that God has not placed into power, and God had placed Saul into power. And therefore only God had the right to remove that individual from power. So when somebody is using their authority against us, if we're going to benefit by their removal, we have to be very, very careful in the actions that we take. And this is a lesson that we can learn from David. He let God take care of the situation. Hope this study today has been a blessing as we continue to go along in 2 Samuel in the coming days. I trust it to be a rich blessing to you. Hope you're having a great day so far. May God richly bless the rest of your day.